There's a deep need to belong, a deep need to be loyal, and a sense of betrayal when that loyalty is somehow insulted. If you didn't get the love that you needed, you'll be consumed by being liked, and then you'll be very likable and very nice. And you might become a helpful, very helping individual. Which is a coping pattern. Now, you can be genuinely nice and genuinely supportive of others and still look after your own needs. That's human nature, I think. But a lot of people are very nice and likable and helpful by suppressing their own needs. That's a coping mechanism. Everybody says how nice they are. And when they die at age 50 of cancer, everybody shows up at their funeral and they weep about how nice they were, how selfless they were. You know, I saw the biography, the Martin Scorsese biography of George Harrison the other night. And Harrison was one of these people. Ringo Starr was visiting Harrison a couple of weeks before Harrison's death in Switzerland of brain tumor. Starr's own daughter had a brain tumor and was in Boston for an operation, and Starr was having to leave Switzerland visiting his dying friend and go to be with his daughter. And Harrison, who can barely get out of bed at this point, says, "Shall I come with you?" And Ringo Starr, when he says this, he starts weeping at how nice and how helpful and compassionate Harrison was, which he was, but at whose expense? And these are the people that end up with cancer. Now that's a coping mechanism. It meant that your childhood was such where your needs weren't met and you had to pay more attention to the needs of the parents. And that's how you cope. That's how you maintain the relationship with them. The day I read Harrison's biography some years ago, the day he got married, he reassured his mother that, "Mom, don't worry, I'll still be visiting you." Like apologizing really for getting married. Now that tells me everything about what happened in their childhood, his childhood. And of course he was known as the quiet Beatle, who didn't assert himself, who didn't speak out. And on their early albums, he was a great songwriter, but you wouldn't know that from their early albums because Lennon and McCartney were more dominant and he was the quiet one. So that self-suppression, that quietness, is actually a coping mechanism. The question really is, how compulsive is the niceness? In other words, will you be doing it as a free choice? Or are you obsessively that way? It's not the external behavior that distinguishes the one from the other, it's the internal relationship to it. The people are compulsively that way. They deny their own needs, and of course this is when their body says no to them in the form of some kind of illness. So, whereas, I think that compassion is just true human nature. Again, one of the myths of our society is that people are competitive, aggressive, individualistic, dog eat dog. This is the law, the survival of the fittest, the complete misunderstanding of Darwinian evolutionary theory. In fact, the bending of evolutionary theory to basically justify capitalist murderous competition. That's not what people are. I think people are we're wired for compassion. That's all there is to it. All science comes down, all human science, psychology, behavioral science, psychiatry, educational philosophy, that's what it comes down to.